Welcome to Beyond the Bee, an ongoing dialogue about the past, present, and future of the B Corp movement. Co-hosts Emmy Allison and Ryan Honeyman facilitate an open and honest conversation about the B Corp movement, advise companies on how to increase their impact, and provide a deep dive into the new B Corp standards that are shaping our community. Our guest today is Jessica Yinka Thomas. Jessica is an academic, author, and activist. She leads the Business Sustainability Collaborative and is an associate professor at NC State University's Poole College of Management. Jessica teaches business sustainability, social innovation, and ethics. She also runs the B Corp Clinic, connecting students with B corporations to enhance their impact, a model adopted by over a dozen institutions worldwide. As co-founder and executive director of B Academics, she leads a global network of over 2,500 educators, researchers, students, and practitioners dedicated to transforming higher education for good. Previously, she spent a decade in industry roles, including designing mobile satellite systems at a multinational, managing product development at a toy startup, and consulting for a global health NGO. She has authored case studies, white papers, and 2 social justice novels. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here. Hi, Ryan. Hi, Emmy.
We're happy you're here. Could you tell us a bit about your background before you first got involved with the B Corp movement? What were some of the things that you were up to?
Absolutely. I love this question to start. So let's start at the very beginning. I am the daughter of Dr. Adebisi Babatunde Thomas, a Nigerian economist, and Marianne Thomas, a computer scientist. So I like to say that I grew up between innovation and impact. And I was born in the US, spent much of my childhood in Nigeria and Senegal and going back and forth between the US and West Africa. And so looking back at that experience growing up, it was probably no surprise, at least to me, now that I decided to attend Stanford University. I majored in product design there, which was a brand new major at the time. It was so new. They hadn't even approved the major yet. So my diploma still just says engineering. And now there's an entire design school, a D school. But at the time, product design was a great fit for me because it was an interdisciplinary major. It was based in the mechanical engineering department and combined engineering, psychology, and art. And we were very focused on designing solutions to the biggest challenges facing business, facing the world. And this was the early days of design thinking, which has become, a very well-known model now. But back then, it was still a very innovative concept. And this model came out of IDEO. And so many of my professors at Stanford were some of the early folks at IDEO. I still remember riding my bike down Palm Drive to the IDEO headquarters in Palo Alto to meet with David Kelly, the founder of IDEO, because I wanted to convince him to let me take his class from Paris because I was going on exchange there and needed to continue the product design sequence. He said yes, which was amazing. But that was just an incredible opportunity to be part of such an innovative major, such an innovative approach to thinking about how we develop solutions. My favorite project as an undergrad student was actually designing a toy. I designed this set of like huge interconnected foam blocks that allowed kids to basically like build forts and build things out of these blocks, and then you could jump on them and destroy what you had built. And so that led me to really the first job that I loved after graduating from undergrad, which was actually working at a educational toy design company called Leapfrog. I cold called the company after seeing their products in Toys R Us and pitched myself to them. And they hired me as the second product designer. I was employee number 11 at Leapfrog,
Amazing.
I
and it
know
was
That's so
Leapfrog
cool.
because my kids have it.
I remember
well,
playing with
as a
Leapfrog
as
toys.
a professor, it's amazing because I introduced myself and I asked the students how many of you use Leapfrog toys growing up, and still so many hands. And I like to tell them, well, I've been teaching you since you were a kid, and I'm excited to have that opportunity again. So it's amazing kind of introduction in the classroom. But it was my first experience working at a company. It was a startup. I helped grow the company to the third largest toy company in the US when I left as, part of that founding team, designed over a dozen different interactive electronic toys focused on reading, math, science, and five different languages. We produced millions and millions of units distributed around the world. And I still remember one of the toys that I led the design on, the twist and shout multiplication toy, was featured on Oprah's holiday episode way back in 1999. Give you a little bit of sense of time, which was amazing. And so, I loved that experience of being an engineer, being an innovator, but really wanted to learn more about how companies operate and was becoming more and more interested in this field of social entrepreneurship. When I was just learning about this, I decided to get an MBA at the Fuqua School of Business at Duke University. And a big part of that decision was the opportunity to work with and study with the late Greg Dees, who was one of the thought leaders and innovators in the space of social entrepreneurship. And so graduated from Fuqua, and that really launched my 20-year academic career. And so since then, I've been working in various impact-driven programs in the biomedical engineering department at Duke, running the Center for Sustainable Enterprise at UNC Kenan-Flagler, and now at NC State Full College on the faculty, which is, I have to say, really special for me having a faculty role because my late father was an economics professor at the University of Ile-Ife, Nigeria, and everybody called him Professor Thomas for pretty much his entire life. And so it's an honor to share that title. So I'm particularly touched when my students call me Professor Thomas.
That's so cool.
It's a little bit about the background that paint
Love.
a picture.
I'm like trying to remember the leapfrog toys that I played with as a kid. And there's like a writing device. I can't remember what
The
we were
leap pad.
writing. Yeah. What were we
Ooh.
drawing or writing or
So the leap pad was teaching phonics. And so if it was a phonics based toy, then it was probably the leap pad. It might have been a later generation of toy if there was more
got it.
writing
Got it.
involved. But I love
Okay.
that you grew up on leapfrog.
I'm gonna have to look it up. When did you first get involved with the B Corp movement?
Yes, so I'm gonna take you way back, not as far back this time, but it was in 2009. I was working at UNC Kenan-Flagler, and one of the programs that we ran at the Center for Sustainable Enterprise was a 12-month incubator program called the Business Accelerator for Sustainable Entrepreneurship. And we were working with businesses from across North Carolina, working with them to strengthen their impact over the course of this accelerator program. And I was looking for an impact assessment tool to measure and quantify the company's impact as part of the evaluation process to select the companies we would work with. But also, the hope was that we could find a tool that would measure the increase in impact over the course of a 12-month program. And I read about B corporations as part of my research back then, and then actually discovered that one of our recent alumni from the MBA program at Kenan-Flagler actually worked at B Lab. And so she had recently actually opened up the B Lab office in North Carolina. So Elizabeth Richardson, so I think it was actually in her home, but reached out to Elizabeth, shared with her what we were trying to do, and we actually ended up beta testing version 2 of the B Impact Assessment in that business accelerator program and using it for several years as we sought to find that impact assessment tool. And so that was the early days of learning about B Corps. It's really fun reflecting on that time because I'm remembering that some of our now kind of most engaged North Carolina B Corps actually participated in that accelerator. And so Sandy Cronick, who's the CEO of Happy Dirt, was a participant. Tina Pravat was one of the founders of First Hand Foods, also B Corp. And then Brett Smith, who's the founder of Counterculture Coffee, was on our advisory board for BASE. And so that BASE program and using the B Impact assessment in the program, I think, was really, part of the early, many aspects of really catalyzing movement here in North Carolina. And then, we were certainly getting students involved in the accelerator, working with the companies. And this is when things really started to click for me because I saw the light bulb go off for my students when they learned about B Corps, the B Impact Assessment, the movement. And I heard them say things like, here is finally a clear, compelling vision for the power and purpose of business. Oh, wow, here's a comprehensive framework to measure and actually guide companies to improve their impact. Here's a community of innovative leaders I recognize, I know, I trust. And so I think when I saw that spark go off and students start to get excited and ask lots of questions, I thought, all right, there's something here. I really want to get more involved in studying B Corps, teaching about B Corps and this broader movement.
Thank you, Jessica. I think most people don't realize, we talk about me and Emmy are B Corp nerds, and we like this podcast is a lot for B Corp nerds, but you are definitely a B Corp nerd as well. Like, I don't think people realize the level of nerdness that the three of us can get into these types of calls. Yeah, and I think just a little bit of framing for why we're having you on the show. We wanted listeners to get to know you and your work. You've been doing this for many years. I think, what year would you say you did that work with Elizabeth?
So,
was that
15 years ago?
15 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like a very long time. And I would say one of the things that, for how much work B Academics and you have created for the movement, I would say there's still like a disconnect from like the average B Corp company to like what B Academics does and like what some of these other groups do. And so maybe just to like introduce B Academics, you've been a major part of growing the B Academics organization and sort of advance this state of academic study into business as a force for good. And could you tell us a little bit how the organization came about and how it's evolved over the years?
Yes, absolutely. And thank you for giving me the B Corp nerd title. I will add that to my LinkedIn. But, for our origin story for B Academics, it all started when I met Rosanna Garcia. Can I ask you to add some joyful, happy music here?
Pew, pew,
Uh,
pew, 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 pew.
And so this was 2014. I'd moved from UNC Kenan-Flagler to NC State Poole College, and Rosanna joined the faculty in Poole College. And even before she arrived, she had looked me up. She was also as passionate as I was about B Corps. We were kindred spirits. We were in touch before she even arrived on campus. And as soon as she arrived, we both got even more engaged in the B Corp community here in the Triangle. We were definitely vibing off of each other. And we started to seek out other academics, right? Like us, who were interested in teaching about, interested in studying B Corps. And I'm, a professor of the practice. I'm more of a teaching and, engagement faculty focused on, working with the business community. And Rosanna actually was a really interesting bridge between kind of practitioner and researcher. And so she introduced me to Joel Gaiman, who was at University of Alberta at the time. And Joel was and continues to be a real thought leader in the B Corp research space. So he came out to Raleigh to speak to, we brought together an audience of academics and business people to share his research on B corporations. And we had a great turnout. We had a great conversation. And essentially, after that, the three of us started planning for some kind of academic event that we would host in conjunction with the upcoming B Corp Champions Retreat. So this was in 2016 by then. And so we worked together, organized this event that would take place right after the Champions Retreat. Rosanna and I really wanted to go to the Champions Retreat, but we had to sneak in, basically, because back then, if you remember, you had to work at a B Corp to attend, and you only could get two tickets. You could only buy two tickets.
Forgot
And
about that.
so, the early days, taking you back, Emmy. And so I reached out to Liz Tracy, who's director and really part of the leadership team of our B Local, who is running HQ Raleigh, which is now called Raleigh Founded. But we actually helped HQ Raleigh certify as a B Corp the year before. So I reached out to Liz. I said, hey, do you have an extra ticket for the Champions Retreat? Could I come? Rosanna reached out to Maria Kingery at Southern Energy Management, another one of our B Corp leaders. And so we went to the Champions Retreat with our name tags that said companies that we loved dearly, but did not actually work for, which took a little bit of explaining as we were introducing ourselves around. But after that amazing experience, our first Champions Retreat, where I think we were very welcome, despite our complicated path to getting there. But we hosted what ended up being our first B Academics Roundtable. And so this was in collaboration with B Lab. We hosted it at Wharton with their social impact initiative. And we brought together about 20 academics from, mostly up and down the East Coast for really our first, roundtable discussion. And so we, had conversations about, strategic questions as we were, building this new organization, but also made plenty of time to share best practices in teaching, look and, discuss what might be some opportunities for collaborative research. And that was, really the kickoff, the early days for us. And so I met at that first roundtable many of the academics who would go on to be, our founding board members and really part of the amazing team that's continued to lead and build our organization. And so we really started as, a grassroots movement. And over the last 8 years now have been, just out there talking about the work that we're doing, engaging academics from around the world, started to really engage more practitioners. So folks at B Corps who are interested in learning more about academic work, engaging with academic institutions, started engaging more students who are interested in taking on leadership roles in their academic institutions and really working collaboratively with us to really realize this vision that we have of building a global community to transform higher ed for good, right? Focused on how can we engage around teaching, research, working with B Corps, so really to rethink, how we teach about, what is at its core, the purpose of business, what is the purpose of our economic system, and to really be a part of this transformation from, right, this focus on, shareholder primacy to stakeholder capitalism. And so we formalized as an independent 501c3 back in 2019 with the help of Kevin Christopher at Rockridge Law, so B Corp in Tennessee. We just love the B Corp collaborations, and we've continued to grow, develop resources programming, continue to host that roundtable, and we're now, as you mentioned at the top, over 2,500 of us around the world, over 700 different institutions represented in our network, and really, working to build the academic arm of the B Corp movement.
Love it. It makes so much sense that you would want to, for example, have some of that infrastructure set up so you could teach students about, using business as a force for good, and that B Corp could be a tool for you to do that. And so that was just standing out for me as like one of the main benefits. And maybe to sort of go back to that, this is maybe a question that is sort of direct and, it's not meant to be negative, but there's probably a question that some listeners have, which is like, why should I care about the academics? So why should the average person involved with or peripheral to the B Corp community care about B academics? And what value does B academics provide to the B Corp community and to listeners more broadly?
Fair question. And I appreciate you asking, really. So I would say to the listeners, if you are here because you care about the B Corp movement, then you should definitely care about the academics also. And so I think when we think about how can we affect systems level change, right? Our work is very much focused on institutional change in higher education and really empowering educators around the world to teach about B Corp principles, to teach about the B Corp movement, to embed, right, those principles, those practices into curricula into their classes. And we're really working to be part of this, long-term, systems level change to really rethink how business is taught. And at the end of the day, right, how business is practiced, right? And, really redefining the purpose of higher education and preparing the next generation of leaders, to really be a part of realizing that vision of an equitable and regenerative economic system. And so, we're doing, I think, really innovative work out there. I'll share an example from the Poole College of Management, where we just a few months ago launched a grad certificate in business sustainability. This is open to our grad students at NC State, but also open to, anyone in the world, right, who wants to develop the strategies, the skills to really be able to effectively drive sustainable change. And we have woven, right, B Corps and it is framed as part of a broader sustainable business movement throughout that certificate. And so if you take that certificate, you're taking my B Corp clinic class, where you're getting a chance to work with companies that are, seeking to use the BIA to improve their impact. You're taking my business sustainability and emerging markets course, where we go to Brazil and we work with B Corps in Brazil to help them improve their impact on the SDGs using the SDG Action Manager. And so, I mean, I think these, examples, the certificate is just one example, but of, right, dozens of these examples of curriculum innovation that we are implementing around the world that's really, shifting business education. I'll also mention that, we're conducting research that's designed to inform the B Corp community. And so we're looking at, questions like how effective are B Corps and their strategies, with the goal of helping to make the movement, more effective and more impactful. And we're working to bridge theory and practice and, really think about, how can we provide practical, right, applied research that can inform the growth of the movement. And so our mentioned Joel, who's been involved since the very beginning, has been cataloging, the peer-reviewed, published academic research out there, and has been tracking over 200 published articles on B Corps, benefit corporations, B locals, and the broader B Corp movement. And so this is still a relatively new space, but I think there's a lot of exciting momentum and interest from researchers in this space. And so I think we can really be a big part of, accelerating and informing the movement.
So this is the chance to put this debate to rest, Jessica. So if I become a B Corp, how much money will I save or make? What does the research show? Sorry, it's a trick question. You don't have to answer that. But I think that is it's pointing towards, or maybe you do have the answer. I don't know. What do you think?
I have the answer. Are you kidding?
Okay.
What does the 8-ball say? Outlook is hazy. So I do have an answer, and I don't have the answer.
Okay.
But the reality is, there is a lot of research out there on that question, but the results are mixed, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think the stage that the research is at is not so much asking the question, I forget how you phrased it, but how much money am I going to make if I become a B Corp, but under which conditions, right? What types of strategies, what types of business models, within the B Corp framework are actually driving profitability, because we're seeing, right, those mixed results. And so the question is kind of, what are the specific characteristics, right, that create those kinds of opportunities? Because it's not a given, right? Every single B Corp, so it's like magic, right? B Corp certification, and then, right, the money pours down. And so I think it speaks to, one, the early stage of the research, but I think also the potential, depth of future research that can really help us, tease out some of those questions and maybe give you, Ryan, down the road, a more definitive response. But it may be that the question is really, should we be looking at other ways to measure value creation, right? And not just simply, right, the financial metric, which is important, but, right, one among, a number of bottom lines. And so, yes, how about that?
Yeah, and it's interesting because despite my having had the chance to lead a few B Impact team like terms, when I came back to the B Corp movement more recently, I didn't quite fully grasp the benefits of sort of that practitioner academic relationship until I went to the B Academics Roundtable in DC. I think it was like May 2023 or something like that at American
Mhm.
University. And it was such an interesting day where folks sort of presented an overview, like a summary of the research on B Corps thus far. And then also were able to sort of expand and help folks, especially practitioners. So the folks who are doing the work, the folks who are running the B Corps, really explaining that there are so many opportunities for them to sort of like dig in deeper and leverage or research and academia in their day-to-day work. And I was just thinking today, we're like deep in this one review where the company's IBMs are not like exactly clear, and we're trying to like meet the, the B Lab requirements, which are, just various levels of cryptic. But
Yeah.
I have been thinking about how like I did frame it as a research like project or paper per se. Like I went and got, independently verified sources and all of these things. But there is an element of the certification process that is sort of like a little bit research adjacent or parallel. And there really is, I think, some untapped potential between practitioners and academia. So, yeah, just my little plug for the academics as well. Did you want to
Well,
say a little bit more about that?
yes. Well, I love that you were able to attend that event. So I was not there, but that was last year, our Mid-Atlantic B Corp Research Practice Workshop.
All the words.
We like all the words. And that was exactly the goal, right? So we brought together, so that was Joel Gaiman from George Washington University, who's now our VP at B Academics, and Emily Medley from Washington and Lee University, who's our chair of research, with many other collaborators brought together representatives from B Corps, benefit corporations, B Local Mid-Atlantic was involved, and then academics from academic institutions across the greater DC area. And the goal was exactly that, really to co-create research projects and teaching engagements so that as we're developing these research questions, as we're developing, courses and curricula, how can we make sure that it's informed, right, by the B Corp community, by the business community, and how can we begin to break down, right, some of those barriers? I mean, I think there, remains, for good reasons, this perception that those academics are there, right, in their tower doing research that, it has as other academics as their primary audience, and that may or may not translate to the real world. And so this was, I think, a really concerted effort to build that bridge. And I was actually just like chatting with Emily after that event, and she shared with me a story about meeting one of the practitioner participants at that event. And that person shared with her that they did not have a college degree. They had very limited experience working with academics, engaging with academia, and they were shocked by how open and engaged and collaborative the academic participants were. And I think said something like, oh, you want to hear what my challenges are, what my goals are for for our company, and you want to be a part of helping us to to answer those questions, to develop those solutions. And I think that's probably still a relatively common perception. And I do think we are a unique set of academics, still very serious, rigorous researchers, very engaged in developing innovative teaching curricula, but really focused on the role that we can play outside of academia, the role that we can play in systems change. And so, yeah, I love that you shared that story, that you were able to participate. So yeah, thanks for making the time to participate and contribute to that experience. And I think that's such a critical piece of of the puzzle of the system that we're seeking to change.
It was pretty cool.
Nice.
Could you tell us a little bit more about what are B Impact teams and why they're important?
Yes, absolutely. So the impact teams are essentially a model of experiential learning. These were actually first created by B Lab in partnership with Net Impact, which is a global network of student and professional chapters that are focused on careers and business sustainability. And so this is essentially a student consulting model where students work in teams with companies that are at, different stages along that 0 to 200 plus spectrum. And so essentially companies that are seeking to improve their social and environmental impact using the BIA as a roadmap. And so there's a relatively new approach to experiential learning. St. Joseph's University was the first instance that I've been able to find of a B Impact team. And so David Steingard taught this class in spring of 2013. It was Applied Sustainable Leadership. And so I think that was the first instance that I'm aware of really using the BIA in a classroom setting to work with real world companies on consulting projects. And since then, this model has continued to evolve and be replicated. So, B Academics, we're tracking 29 different B Impact Teams programs around the world, and we're building out a directory so that folks can find some of the full-fledged, well-developed programs out there. So we've got 10 of those programs listed in our directory on our website. And so some of the programs out there that I think are the most well established and have had the biggest impact. So certainly our program, the B Corp Clinic at NC State, Kristen Joys, who's our chair of teaching at B Impact. She runs the Business for Good Lab at University of Florida. Nathan Stuck, who's our chair of B Local Engagement, runs the B Collaborative at University of Georgia. And Nathan was running some numbers recently, and he estimates that a third of the B Corps in the states of North Carolina, Florida, and Georgia came through those three programs. So participated in one of those three B Impact teams,
That's pretty cool.
which I think is really amazing. Maybe gets back to the why B Corps should care question. So like throw back to that. But I think this is a really exciting model as we're thinking about how do we prepare, right, future business leaders to really think about, what are some of the real world impacts of the decisions that businesses are making, right? They have this opportunity to get hands-on experience. So they're applying maybe what they're learning in the classroom and maybe just what they're learning right through the B Impact assessment, through their own independent research, but on a real world company. And this is, I think, a great opportunity to help prepare them for careers where they can have an impact, whether they're going to start a B Corp, go work at a B Corp, or go work at a traditional company, but that, sees a strategic opportunity in, really improving their impact. They have this roadmap, they have this set of experiences, they have this network, right, that they've built through this B Impact teams. And hopefully they have this added sense of confidence that wow, like I can actually, drive change. I can actually, have an impact. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about this model. And we're doing a lot of work through B Academics to develop tools and resources for other academic institutions that want to replicate and adapt, right, this model to their academic institutions. And so we host webinars, we do in-depth workshops, we've written guides on how to start a B Impact team. And we're seeing this model replicated really around the world. And so Belle Barroso, who's our chair of communications, she runs the Social Impact Bootcamp at Universidad de Malaga in Spain. So a B Impact team in Spain. We worked with City University in partnership with the Japan Research Institute to develop a version of the B Impact team model that's being run in Japan right now. And then I have to shout out my former student and now partner in all things B Corp, Rachel Haynes. And so Rachel graduated from our Jenkins MBA program in Poole and now serves as the operations director for B Academics. And she just launched a summer B Impact team that we're running through B Academics that's open to any student anywhere in the world. And so for students who don't have a B Impact team, on their campus want this kind of experience, they can participate in this 10-week summer Be Impact team that Rachel has designed and has run. And so it's just amazing to see the impact. Rachel participated in the B Corp clinic as a student and now is running her own Be Impact team through Be Academics. So it's amazing to see just the impact of that work. And so, right, why is it important? I think we can provide an incredible resource for, aspiring certified B corporations in addition to the learning opportunity for the students. This is a resource that's, at no cost. And so I think we can fill a gap, particularly for under-resourced companies that need support, whether it's improving their impact or whether it's certification or recertification. So we really want to see how we can be a resource and create a win-win opportunity for the students and the companies.
I got to watch the presentations, the final presentations for it's called the Be Impact Team Summer. It's like the summer program.
Summer BIT, yeah,
Thank
Be
you.
Academics, that's right, yes.
And it was so cool seeing students. All teams cited like the most challenging part was working across several time zones, which I was like, I feel that so hard. But it was so cool to see that they clearly had a great time and learned so much. And I love seeing the Be Impact Team final presentations. There's such like a treasure trove of knowledge that everyone gets to learn, whether it's the participating company, the students, and sometimes the folks who are managing these programs. I like to say every impact assessment is an opportunity to learn something new and uncover something new about the B Corp process and B Corp certification. But it was really cool to see these students enjoy and like spend their summers doing this.
Yes, amazing, amazing. I'm so glad you're able to participate.
Could you share more about the Be Impact team at NC State and some examples of projects?
Yes, absolutely. So we started our Be Impact team. So we call it the B Corp Clinic here at NC State in 2015. And I love the story of how the program came together because in the span of a few weeks, I had one group of students come to me. This is a group of undergraduate students led by one of our Jenkins MBA students, Liz Bowen. And they came and said, we want to work with a local company on a sustainability consulting project. Can you help us find a company to work with? We think this would really be a cool learning opportunity, but we just don't know, right? We're students. We don't know how to go out there and approach companies. I said, yeah, absolutely. Let me think about this. And then I think it must have been a few days later. So Liz Tracy, the director of HQ Raleigh, who I mentioned earlier, came to me. And so this was before HQ Raleigh had certified, but Liz was still, very involved in the B Corp movement in the Triangle. And she said, hey, we want to certify HQ Raleigh, but I need some help with the certification process. Do you have any students who might be interested in working with us? And I said, yes, I might. And then around that same time, there were a lot of conversations happening in the Triangle around B Corps at that time. And Christina Noel, who worked at a B Corp at the time, the Redwoods Group, was also part of the Triangle leadership team. And I was telling her this story, right? And she said, well, I developed a guide to do this when I was an intern at B Lab. I think it was 2 summers before, that was based on that St. Joseph's project. So then St. Joseph's worked with B Lab to develop the model. So anyway, those three things happened within weeks of each other. And that was really the beginning of our B Corp clinic. So we worked on that pilot with HQ Raleigh and helped them certify. We built it off of this model that B Lab had actually developed and just continued to revise and iterate on that. And so our initial B Corp clinic program, so we have models that are both extracurricular opportunities outside of the classroom and then programs that are part of a course, which is part of the beauty of the model, is that it works in a lot of different environments. And so our program was initially extracurricular, which meant that we could open it up to any student across the state of North Carolina. And for those first few years, we had interdisciplinary students, undergrad, grad students from NC State, Duke, UNC, local HBCUs like North Carolina Central, our local community colleges. And so it's this amazing interdisciplinary cross university program for I think the first 4 years or so. And more recently, I've embedded the program in a grad sustainable business strategy course that I teach. And so it's just been really interesting to see kind of two different models and two different approaches. And, each project is different, which is, I think, part of the beauty of the B Impact Teams model and part of the beauty of the B Impact assessment. And so students at the beginning of the program work with companies to scope the project, better understanding the company's strategic priorities, and then using the B Impact assessment to essentially outline, right, what are specific deliverables? How are we going to prioritize, specific questions, specific areas of the assessment, and then, work over the course of, our case is a semester long program. There's some B Impact teams that are a week long, 2 weeks long, right, depending on the model, but work over the course of the program to, conduct research, deliver actionable tools, make recommendations to the company to eventually help them improve their impact, right? Again, using the BIA. And so this is meant for, some really interesting projects over the years. We worked on a 2-semester project with Red Hat, some major open source software company, essentially evaluating whether B Corp certification was a good fit for the company. And also the students work to make, in the process, some recommendations on how Red Hat could strengthen their impact. And they ended up deciding not to pursue B Corp certification. And we found out later that they were in the middle of talks to be acquired by IBM. But it was an incredible opportunity for the students to meet with senior leadership at, this major technology corporation, to have some really high level strategic questions. And so, that's one type of project students work on. It might be helping them make a decision about certification focused on impact improvement. But then we've also worked with, dozens of companies that have gone on to become certified B corporations that came with that goal, right, to the program. And so one that I'm particularly proud of is we worked with an apparel company called Descalza. And this company was actually started by an NC State student, Lisbeth Arias. And the company essentially works with textile artisans in Latin America and with seamstresses here in North Carolina to create custom clothing that's really designed to celebrate the Latinx culture. And so the students in the clinic worked with Lisbeth on, particularly helping her on the worker section of the assessment and on the environment section of the assessment to gather data, develop tools to measure and manage her impact. And the company eventually ended up certifying as a B corporation. And I remember seeing Lisbeth at the US Canada Champions Retreat in Philly. I think it was the one before last, speaking at the Champions Retreat and, representing Descalza, representing the B Corp movement, so beautifully. And so it was just a real pleasure to be a part of that journey. And so, we work with companies on recertification as well. So we just worked on a project with Counterculture Coffee to help them recertify as a B Corp and go from 80 points to 91.9 points on their certification. And so it just really provides this opportunity for a range of different projects, a range of different, ways for the students to really have an impact on real world companies. And it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. And also, I wanted to give an extra shout out to Descalza, Lisbeth, Carolina. Like, they have some beautiful pieces, and she is
Yes.
such a delightful addition to the B Corp community. Huge Descalza
Uh,
fan.
Jessica, have you been able to track students? Like, where do these students end up after graduation and having that B Impact Team experience? Do you track that at all?
Yes, such a great question. So in the B Corp clinic, we've had over 500 students participate in our clinic over 9 years now, 18 semesters worth of projects, 100, where are we? Over 100 companies we've worked with. And so it's a work in progress, tracking where those students are going, and it is across the board. So we need to, run some analytics once we have, a full set of data. But it is really, I mean, what you might imagine is just a broad range of, these are undergraduate students for the first 4 years, primarily grad students for the last 5 years, but some of them are going to work at B corporations. I had one student, well, I've had many, but most recently a student who took my B Corp clinic class and said, I want to work at a B Corp after the class. And so we worked to develop a strategy, did a bunch of informational interviews. And so Darius Roundtree ended up working at Guild Education for a while. And so we have students who go work at B corporations. We have students who go work at businesses that would define themselves as sustainable businesses, social entrepreneurship ventures that already have a focus on impact and that are looking for students with skills and shared values. And then we have students, and this is probably the majority of the students, who go into a broad range of traditional roles in all the functional disciplines you might imagine. Business school students go into in a range of different industries. And so, I mean, I really think of the work that we're doing and the impact that we're having through these Be Impact team models as building change makers who are equipped to work in a whole range of different environments where they have a way to think through, right? How can I drive impact? Who do I need to engage? What kind of framework makes sense here, right? How can I affect change within this organization? What are our strategic priorities? What are our goals? How can I develop, a process that's in alignment with them? And not necessarily students who are going off into any specific, type of company or any specific role. And I think that's the power and my hope is, the potential impact of these programs, that that's widespread, that it's dispersed, and that, if we can get to the scale, that it's driving systemic change.
You mentioned Christina Noel, and I'm going to put something in the chat, and I'm going to put this in the show notes. So this is a medallion that I created. People who are listening can't see this, but it's a literal, I've had it made on Etsy. It's a golden medallion that says B Corp MVP. And Christina, so I had won the B Corp MVP in 2014 for writing the book, but then she won it in 2015. And I said, okay, whoever is the B Corp MVP needs to have sort of a giant medallion that they can wear. And so I had this made for her, and I don't know if she may still have it. So Christina, if you're listening, let's see the medallion, need some pictures.
I love it.
And I'm going to give her a shout out for her new company, Better Made Easy.
Yes.
She can. Do you want to hype her new company, or do you want me to hype it?
Oh, please. No, please go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
So yeah, mission-driven e-commerce. So basically, if you have gifts or other items that you want to give, her company curates gift boxes and other ways to give gifts that are all thoughtful B Corp brand, not necessarily all B Corp brands, but are all responsible brands. And so Better Made Easy, folks. And yeah, so I just thought I heard Christina's name. So she's amazing. Just want to give her a shout out.
Love it. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So side note, we had awards here and for the Be Local Triangle, and Christina gave me the top banana award. And it was a banana. It was a plastic banana with a Be the Change button stuck on it. And it's still on my desk.
I love it. Custom awards.
I love
amazing.
Oh, so I think she was inspired by your MVP
battalion.
So Jessica, what are you most excited about as it relates to the work of Be Academics?
Yes, well, so much to be excited about for sure. But I will say, for the sake of time, I am particularly excited about our engagement with HBCUs, so historically Black colleges and universities. And this engagement work is being led by Nathan Stuck, so our chair of Be Local engagement. And he's working with Ned Jones at Be Local Texas, Lavanya Jones, who's on the faculty at Morehouse, And we're really working to develop a leadership development opportunity for students from HBCUs to get engaged with their B locals and to work on B Corp consulting projects, to deliver B Corp trainings to business leaders, including BIPOC business leaders. And so I'm really excited about that engagement work. I'm also really excited about our global engagement work. And so Veronica Devonin, who's our B Academics Chair of Global Engagement at IATA Business School in Spain, has been leading that work. And we've been essentially developing country-based B Academics models. And so we've built a B Academics Spain. We're piloting B Academics Italy. And, we've been looking at kind of how can we make sure that we are really truly building a global B Academics community. So we've been hosting a series of, we call them Global Community of Practice conversations, where we're bringing together academics and practitioners from different regions of the world. And so, for example, last year we hosted a virtual event showcasing B Corp research and teaching across the African continent in collaboration with B Lab Africa and Strathmore University in Nairobi, Kenya. So really excited about those really, I think, intentional engagement strategies to really continue to grow and scale our work.
I love that B Academics is really digging into a sort of global movement. There's so much that can be learned from folks around the world and other folks doing different things. It is really very much the spirit of learning together that B Academics fully embraces. What do you need right now, Jessica? How can the listeners help support whatever you're doing?
Wow. Well, thank you for asking that question. First of all, I love that. Well, I do want to shout out some of the B Corps we've had an opportunity to partner with. We love to partner with B Corps. And so, for example, we bank at Beneficial State Bank, and Beneficial is one of our event sponsors. And Creative Chi did our brand development work, right? Another B Corp. And who was at this last US Canada Champions retreat. And I was talking with Denise Tashero from Fairwear. I was kind of complaining. I was saying nobody wants to work with us to produce our promotional materials because we're so small and we're under everybody's kind of minimum order. And I wasn't looking for a supplier, but Denise said, "You're way under our minimum order, but we will work with you." And we just
Amazing.
got pens and pins earlier this week for our research roundtable, which is taking place tomorrow.
Yay.
And so we would love to find other ways to partner with and engage with other B Corps out there. We are really working on a major initiative to translate research. And so we're definitely looking for partners who want to support and partner with us on that research translation. We really want to find ways to scale this B Impact Teams model. And so we're looking for partners to help support that work as well. And we've got, a number of amazing academic institutional partners as well. And so we're always, if there anybody who's connected with or at an academic institution, we'd love to find ways to work with you. And for individual folks out there, if you want to, get engaged and learn more about our work, you can become a member of B Academics. It's a great way to support our work, but also get access to some of the tools and resources that we've developed. And so we've got a member directory where you can search B Academics. And so if you want to see who's at your alma mater or who's at your local academic institution in our network, you can do that. And and then finally, I would just say, how can we be a resource to your community, right? To the folks who are listening to this podcast. And so we'd love to hear from you. What are research questions that you have that might inform our work? Are you interested in getting connected with students in our network? We've got a demonstrated interest in B Corps. Do you need support through certification or recertification? We've got the B Impact teams for you. You can check out our B Impact teams directory. So yeah, we'd love to find ways to partner and to support and be a resource to your community here on Beyond the B.
Yes, send all the research questions. And how can we learn more about your work?
All right. So beacademics.org, one-stop shop. And You can join our monthly newsletter there. Great way to stay updated on our work and hopefully maybe find opportunities to get engaged with us. So.
And also shout out to y'all have like a specific website for the B Impact teams for pool, but there's some really cool and very impressive stats on that website. So check that out as well.
Yes, absolutely. Maybe for the show notes, we can send you all the links.
Sounds good.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Jessica. Did you win the B Corp MVP in 2016? No, you won it one year, right?
2016, that is correct.
Yeah. So wait.
Whoa.
So that means that Christina owes you a medallion. So you need to follow up with Christina and say, excuse me.
Well, technically, so it was the Bill Clark Award. So I don't know if it is the MVP award.
Oh, actually, yeah.
It was the Bill Clark Award. So I think it might be
it's sort of like outside the movement. It's someone for outside the movement who has done the most work to advance the movement. Okay.
Yes. So MVP is inside, the Bill Clark Award is outside. So that is, yes, what I was shocked to win in 2016. So yes, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So cool.
Awesome. Well, yeah, it's been a pleasure having you, and keep sending in questions, and really hope that this helps build more support for the important work y'all are doing at the academics. So thanks so much.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation and the opportunity. And I want to thank Rachel Haynes, who I know wrote in and suggested this topic.
Yes.
So Rachel is out there working overtime, and I am so grateful.
Rachel's awesome.
Yes. Amazing.
Right.
Such a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Beyond the Bee. We are trying to grow our audience and wanted to ask you a huge favor that you can do right now. Try to think of one person that might like this show. Then pull out your phone and text them something like, "Hey, I think you might like this new podcast, Beyond the Bee. Check it out at lifteconomy.com/beyond. You can subscribe wherever you get your podcasts." Seriously, try to text someone right now. Pull out your phone. Then follow up with them to see how they liked it. This would be super helpful for us. We deeply appreciate your support.